starting with number two, or list two, if you make it through conditions conducive and everything looks great, then the next thing to consider would be, where do I enter, right? What might be a good entry point for any given trade I'm considering? So we're going to kind of talk about that. So let's talk about number one, or at least the first question on list two, which is entry considerations. It states, given proximity to pressure lines, does the asymmetry work well for an 8-to-1 at a minimum? So we're going to go here. We're just going to find an example, and we'll see what we come up with, right? So I like right here storage. I like storage on the 4-hour. The time now is 12:52, February 6th, right? So maybe we'll see how this does on, again, short-term trade at some point. However, I like storage on the 4-hour. It's overextended from the 4-hour movement monitor, right, which is down here. And so can I find conditions conducive for an 8-to-1 risk-reward ratio with regard to a pressure line? So I think that if we are looking at the channel that it's in, we kind of look at even like most recent price action. It's kind of like ranged from the top here, 0.72. In fact, let's go a little larger here. This gives us more perspective, right? So we can see that it's ranged in a couple different places, and overall, it's gone from here to the low over here, 49. Back up here toward the high. So this is kind of like the channel that it's been ranging in. Give me 1 second, let me clean this up a little. Okay, so here we are. Again, just looking for the purpose of this example at one time frame, which is the 4-hour. I like the setup on the 4-hour. So on the 4-hour, we figure the top of the channel is somewhere in the neighborhood of up here, right? So we're looking at a pretty long period of time relative to like where we are trying to find our trade. And let's go back to the question. The question was, given proximity to pressure lines, does the asymmetry work for an 8-to-1? Okay, so we'll go back. Well, I think the first thought a person would have is, oh my gosh, storage is bullish. Let's jump in. And so they'd probably try to find the place that's closest to price action, right? They might try right here. And it could work, but chances are it would work temporarily. And the true best place to enter would probably be somewhere closer down here, closer to the movement monitor, right? If you were going to try to find an entry here, it couldn't be based on the 4-hour. You would have to look at it and say, okay, I like the fact that the 4-hour is bullish. Now let me find logic based on the 2-hour, right? And so we would kind of look for something on the 2-hour that might be more logical. And so still, this pressure line down here, that if the price action came back here, would not be considered overextended. It would actually be considered an ideal entry, could create the situation we want. And so one might look to use the volatility monitor down there as a stop loss zone, right? They'd want to make sure that the setting is appropriate for this type of trade, which would probably be scalping, right? If you want to be conservative, you'd use the ultra sensitive scalping volatility monitor. However, if you found logic looking at the history, like if you change the configuration and there's logic for use of the agile setting, or there's logic for use of the dynamic setting, you could do that as well, right? So kind of keep that in mind. You just want to find logic. If you have a lot of uninterrupted, red in the volatility clouds, that is the logic you're looking for. If you have a lot of uninterrupted green, less stripes, that is the logic you're looking for. If you have extreme volatility and you're looking to find a very, very high precision trade and you're in small time frames, probably look at the scalping, because that is how intense it can get based on the most recent data, right? So in either case, the thing to do here would not be FOMO into price action here, which will probably get rejected and shoot back down, at least for the moment. statistically, the thing to do would be identify your orange conditions conducive on the movement monitor, green conditions conducive on the cloud, green conditions conducive in the channel, orange conditions conducive in the breakout bar. This is like a beautiful setup because it's kind of trending that direction on the 4-hour. The 2-hour is already orange on orange. The only thing wrong with it is a bit overextended, which means that chances are before a continuation upward, it's probably going to come back down. And so with that being said, this would essentially be that pressure line setup you're looking for, right? You don't want to jump in. There's never a need to FOMO. This setup is one that you could take through your conditions conducive checklist. You could run through it. You could avoid overextension, right? Longing in overextended conditions. It could work, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. You could avoid longing right at a resistance pressure line. And things of that nature, right? I mean, you're literally right under 2 pressure lines. So that is like the opposite of an ideal place to launch along. And so what I would do is find a place that's much better, which would be about 1 pressure line down. Have the attitude of, if my trade does not hit, then it doesn't hit, and I'll find the next best entry. But based on the 4-hour and what it's doing, and then based on the 2-hour, orange on orange, green volatility cloud, and what it's doing, I think this looks like a good setup. So for pressure line alone, while using volatility cloud to have your back on your stop loss zone, this more than supports an 11 or 12 risk reward ratio, which vastly exceeds the 8 that we're looking for. So kind of cool, right?